Cool. I can see we have people coming in, which is very exciting. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Future Meets Present stage for Earth Day 2021, put on by the Earth Institute, or the Earth Day Institute, sorry. Yeah, happy Earth Day 2021. I'm sure you all are kind of Zoom pros by now, but feel free to hop in the chat, let us know kind of who you are, if you represent a certain organization, maybe where you're based. So my name's Hannah Pang. I'm the head of marketing and advocacy at Futera. We are a sustainability strategy and communications agency. I'm based in London in the UK, but we have offices in New York and Stockholm and Mexico City, and we work with different companies all around the world, ranging from fashion, food, tech, built environment, sports, entertainment. Yeah, we definitely work across sectors. I also host a podcast called the Crystals, Clits, and Climate podcast. And oh, great, I see everyone, or people are already starting to filter in through the chat. So welcome, Danielle, nice to see you here. And yeah, hope everyone has been enjoying all the incredible content and speakers and information that the Earth Day Initiative has been curating so far. And thank you to the Future Meets Present team and to the Gather teams who've created an incredible virtual space. And thank you for joining us now. I'm so happy to be kicking off the Future Meets Present stage. And this discussion today on the stage is about creating a future fit fashion industry. And I'm so honored and excited to be joined by some incredible fashion experts who are really helping shape the future of the industry and what fashion will look like in the future. So before we dive into discussion, again, as attendees, jump in the chat, let us know kind of where you're tuning in from. If you have any questions as we go throughout our discussion, please use the chat, drop them in there, and we'll try to kind of pick them up as we go along. So the reason for this discussion today and why I wanted to bring together these speakers specifically is that when we're thinking about creating a sustainable world, it can be really helpful to have kind of a picture in our heads of what that looks like. So what are we working towards? What is the direction that we're going in? So that then we can help figure out or start figuring out the steps and actions that are needed to get there. So in our conversation today, hopefully we'll start to craft a bit of a picture and give a sense of what the fashion industry and our relationship to fashion will look like in the future. So on to our speakers, we have Libby Summers, who is the Director of Corporate Responsibility at Bolt Threads, which is just a mind-blowing material innovation company. I'm such a huge fan. We have Georgina Hyatt, who's a co-founder of Retaro, which is a fashion rental platform based in the UK. And we have Courtney Chu, who's the founder of Ocean, which is a sustainable swimwear and lifestyle brand. So all from different perspectives with different solutions. So hopefully we can craft quite a holistic picture today of what a future fit fashion industry will look like. So I've probably spoken enough for now. Let's kick it off with a bit of an intro into each of our speakers. So if you could each share who you are, what you do, and kind of your first thoughts on how your work is helping to craft a more sustainable fashion industry. And Libby, can I hand it over to you first?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thanks for that introduction, Hannah. It's great to be here. I'm Libby Summer, as Hannah said, Director of Corporate Responsibility at Bolt Threads. We are a materials innovation company. We're working on more sustainable, biologically based material for the fashion, apparel, and footwear industries. We are in collaboration at the moment with 4 key partners as we scale up a mycelium-based leather material, Milo. We're working with Stella McCartney, Adidas, Caring, and Lululemon to bring this material to life. For those of you who might not know what mycelium is, it's essentially the root structure of a fungi. We grow that material in less than 2 weeks, and we process it into a leather-like material. So it has the look and feel of leather, but it's actually made from essentially mushrooms. And in creating that material, we take a systems view, and we try to design for sustainability from this stuff. So for us, that means making intentional choices to dramatically reduce the footprint of our material, particularly in comparison to leather, and then to continuously improve as we develop and scale up. I think add just a few words about my background. So for Bolt, I got my start in the Environmental Protection Agency. I've always been interested in sustainability and environmental protection. And I worked through the EPA with lots of different industries on topics like green chemistry, redesigning products. I gave lots of presentations during that time of my career, and they started kind of going along the same theme. And that theme was really, if we think about and use some of the tools that are out there to design products more sustainably, we can really start to avoid some of the unintended consequences that might come from the selection of inputs into materials or the way that that's produced. And so it's always been this interest of mine to think about sustainability from a design and early development point, and try to design a product or material not only for the function or the aesthetics that you want, but also the sustainability that you also want. And that's really what led me to my career at Bolt Threads.
Amazing. Thanks, Libby. Georgie, I'll pass it over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Georgie Hyatt, and I'm the co-founder of Retiro, the fashion rental platform, and I'm based in the UK. So Retiro is a fashion rental platform, and we work directly with brands, helping them access their circular economy customer. So initially, we started out as more of a traditional wholesaling business, and we've evolved into being more of a platform for brands because we found that brands are really interested in entering the circular fashion economy, but they don't really know how to do it, and they don't really have the logistics or the know-how. So that's where we step in and partner with them. We work with luxury fashion brands retailing between about 100 and 1,000 pounds for now. And my background is in trend forecasting. I used to work at WGSN, which is the global authority in trend and consumer forecasting. And I was working very closely with luxury fashion brands like Hermes and Ralph Lauren, helping them develop new products, move into new markets, and implement trends and sustainability practices. I was also working very closely with some fast fashion brands, and that's when my eco-anxiety really started to kick in. And I realized that I really wanted to be part of a fashion solution rather than being part of a fashion problem. And I saw the opportunity in re-commerce and rental and resale. And that's when I went out and co-founded Retiro. Retiro is also a fashion resale platform. So we're really looking to work very closely with our brands to help them take accountability for the full life cycle of their garments, but we can go into that a little bit later. Thank you so much for hosting us, Hannah.
Awesome, thanks, Georgie. And Courtney, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney. Thanks again for hosting us here. This is a great panel. So I'm the founder of a lifestyle and eco swim label called Ocean out of Vancouver in Canada. And really, we're a platform that is just intended to inspire our most open and limitless selves to motivate kind and positive actions for people and for planet. So for us and for me, Ocean is really a vehicle to just raise awareness, shift perspectives, and kind of be a community around the world to learn and share and grow together. My background is in fashion and marketing specifically, and I've been in the industry for about 14 years. Both on the men's side and the women's wear side, and definitely saw a lot of what accumulates in fashion in the industry over time, whether it's in the production side or packaging, just everything kind of comes up all the time. We're always building things for new seasons. So I really wanted to create a brand that shows that there's progress and potential in progress and innovating and growing together and learning and sharing together. And that's really what Ocean's about, is just becoming more of an approachable lens on how we can take on this idea of being more eco-friendly through our individual actions together.
Love that. Thanks. And I think in terms of where we could start, something that's helpful for me when I think about looking into the future, and Georgie, if you have any advice from your like trend forecasting experience, I'd love to hear it. But something that helps me think about, okay, if I'm thinking 5 years in the future, so to 2025, or looking beyond that to 2030, just starting by thinking back, okay, what was normal 5 years ago, what was normal 10 years ago, versus, you know, everything that we've been able to achieve today, what our lives look like today that seemingly would have been or felt impossible at the time. So do you guys have anything that comes to mind for you in terms of what's kind of normal now in the fashion industry, especially from your perspectives that, yeah, just weren't normal 5 years ago that are now just like totally commonly accepted?
Yeah, I'll start. So I think the sharing economy has grown hugely in terms of fashion, and that was absolutely influenced by the likes of Uber and other services like that. I think people are really interested nowadays about accessibility over ownership, and that's brought rise to these platforms like Depop and Vestiaire, and really giving people the opportunity to access these beautifully made garments at a reduced price. I think people have also learned to start buying things with like the resale and rental market in mind. I think that they are making more informed choices about what they're putting their money into, and they're really thinking about how they're going to make money at the end of this garment's life cycle, which I think is so exciting. And also what is great is the rise of repairing garments. So rather than just if something breaks or tears or you think that you can't wear it anymore, I really like the rise of these services like the Restory, where you'll send your bag and they'll return it to you as good as new. And I think that's really important to look after what we have. And I think people are really becoming more aware of whatever they own, they really need to take accountability for it.
Nice, thanks. Yeah, I think I was telling you I found an essay that I wrote in college in 2010 about my vision of rental and resale being the future of fashion 10 years ago now, which makes me feel very old.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 5 years ago, I didn't think I would have considered rental. I'm from South Africa. I mean, it definitely wasn't even a twinkle in my eye 5 years ago. So I think 2021 is really a year where rental takes off, particularly in the UK. I know in the US it's had some traction for about 10 years now. But I think it's really exciting that we can offer fashion as a service to help people make more mindful fashion decisions, so that whenever they have an inkling to have something new or they have an occasion, we can help them make that decision a little bit more mindfully, rather than purchasing something where they will wear a couple of times and then discard it. Because, you know, psychologically, we're always going to want something new, and fashion is an extension of who we are and a way that we express ourselves. And we can't just say only buy white jeans and t-shirts, you know, I mean, white t-shirt and jeans. People will always want something a little bit more expressive. So I think that's really exciting, a way that we can contribute there through rental.
Yeah, definitely behavior change is a big one. Sorry, Libby, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say, just wanted to add on to what Georgina was saying. Like, I totally agree with all of that. And I think that there's this also, to add on top, there's like this interesting shift, I think, in consumers getting more invested behind the brands that they're wanting to support or engage with, and taking an interest in understanding maybe where that product comes from or what goes into that product. Like really, really getting more invested in everything that they're choosing to consume, as opposed to just, oh, I need this, so I'll just buy this. You know, they're spending a little bit more time on researching, which I think is really cool. And alongside that, there's a lot more dialogue, I feel, between brands and their consumers and their demographic. I think brands are no longer just having that one-sided, oh, here's what we think and this is what we'll do. They're having to listen to their community, and they're having to listen to people that are are purchasing from them. And it's becoming more of a conversation, which I think is important for brands, because we need to all continue to learn, and we're all students at the end of the day, working towards the same thing. So we can no longer just be the one dictating. We have to be the one listening, responding, and receiving, and continuing to grow too.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. It's much less transactional now, and it's much more about building a long-term relationship with your customer. And Libby, the thing that's coming to mind for me is that's kind of the B2C side of things. In your work with Bolt Threads, I imagine a lot of the conversations that you have are with B2B customers. So you're working with brands, some of the ones that you mentioned, like Stella and Adidas and Lululemon. How have the conversations that you've been a part of kind of shifted over the last few years? And have people had a bit of a mindset shift when it comes to things, especially like materials?
Yeah, there's increasing interest in sustainable materials as kind of the first way that brands can start to get into the area of sustainability and start to address their footprint. There's a statistic that I hear often that is somewhere between like 60 to 95% of brands' impact is in the materials and how those materials are made. At the same time, I also hear the statistic that roughly 70 to 80% of a product's impact is determined in the design phase. And I think while those might seem like a little oppositional, I think they're actually really related, because there is a lot of resources that go into making materials. And those materials are also chosen by designers, by brands. And so we both have this shared responsibility in making sustainable materials, in thinking about the products that we're going to produce. Is there a need for that product? Like, am I just adding to stuff in the world? Is there actual value in this product? What am I changing with making this product? I think we kind of all owe ourselves to ask ourselves those questions and consider our impact, not only in the material sense, but in the full picture sense. And that kind of comes into a trend that I also see, where there's this shift in industry from thinking that a product or material is sustainable because it's recycled, or because it's organic, or because it has this single attribute to it. And all we need to do is look at is like the forced labor concern in certain parts of China around cotton growing to recognize that it's great to have a certification around the environmental side of a product or a material. But we also need to think about the people and how is that thing being made? How is it being produced? And that's really, like, sustainability is all of those things. It's the systems view, thinking about multiple ways of impact, understanding potential trade-offs, and trying to make the best decision you can. And I think there's an increasing sense of, okay, this really is a system challenge, and how do I think about this in a broad sense? Because we are such an interconnected world and such interconnected industry as well, and we need to think holistically from cradle to grave, as we often say in this industry.
Definitely. And I'm just seeing a note in the chat, and I'm hearing it as well. Libby, your audio is kind of fading in and out a little bit.
Okay.
Not sure if maybe headphones or something might help.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll hook up my headphones.
Cool, thanks.
Thanks.
And Courtney, that kind of brings me to something that we often talk about, especially as it relates to ocean, is the community side of the work that ocean is focused on doing. So obviously there is a huge environmental aspect to ocean, and not only in the name and the items that you make, which is swimwear. So it's about your relationship with the water. It's your products allow people to go out into nature and into the ocean. But I know community is such a huge part of what you do as well. I'm just curious about your thoughts on that in terms of looking kind of into the future of ocean. What's the role that kind of people and community play with that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I always kind of say this, but like, humans connect with humans, right? And I really feel that the same way with brands. If brands want to connect with who they're, supposed to be resonating with, they really need to come through it through the lens of that personal human connection side, and becoming really genuine and authentic and honest that they can be. I think community is so important because it's essentially a way to hold yourself accountable to as a brand, to make sure that you're getting that in real time feedback. You're testing the pulse on how things are resonating with the people that you really want to be for, essentially. And it's big for us because it is a pulse check, I think, for the brand. It also is a way for us to really interact with the people we want to connect with firsthand. We work with a lot of nonprofit ocean conservation organizations. So every chapter we either do, I mean, pre-COVID, we used to do beach cleanups and stuff like that with a lot of our ocean conservation partners, including Surfrider. And just having that in-person experience with them, really getting to be by the water with them and learning from them at the same time, it really just holds us accountable to all the things that we know as a brand we need to continue to work on, and also what we can share with our community as well to then take back to their everyday lives. And so we try to do that, whether it's now through our online magazine or through our social media, sharing a bunch of different series and content series around how we can be more positively impactful together through our individual actions, what we can do, resources we can share with one another. And it's been really, really great to see that positive response from our community around that. People just want to learn and are curious. And I think that's the point of hopefully what brands, I think, they have a role in is inspiring that curiosity in really pursuing and sharing what it is that they're saying they're passionate about, you know? So whether it is being eco-friendly, whether it's, you know, trying to, or as Libby had mentioned, like it all revolves around everything, like social justice issues, all of that is all related. So whether you're interested in that or whether you're interested about the climate, I think it's really important for brands to really inspire that curiosity and awareness and understanding for the community, if that's what they're saying that their values are held into. So
yeah, gotta walk the talk. And on the piece that's coming to mind is, as we bring up these types of conversations, what's the role of I guess your different types of organizations in terms of shifting the conversation? So especially in environmentalism, how do we start shifting the conversation to be more intersectional and talk about how these things are related? Or something that's coming to mind as well is with Milo, with the mycelium leather, it feels like there's a communications job to be had to kind of explain the material and why it is a more sustainable alternative. And I see someone who's here works for Oatly, and I imagine that's the same case of having to kind of talk about milk, but it's oat milk. So being within a broader category, why are you kind of the more sustainable version? Yeah, I guess I'm curious in terms of communications, how do you kind of bring your customer and your community along this journey with you as we're kind of shaping the future? So I mean, I guess this is a general question, but Libby, do you want to kick us off?
So Hannah has worked a little bit with us, and I feel like this question is a really good one for some of my colleagues that Hannah has worked with in marketing. I will do my best. I am not a marketer. I think from my perspective, it seems like there are kind of two groups of people when it comes to sustainability marketing. There's the group that wants it really simple. They just want to know, is this material more sustainable, or is it recyclable, or is it, you know, this one thing? And then there's a group that is more interested in that systems view, the deeper details, how is that done when you say that you're using green chemistry? What does that actually mean? What does that mean in terms of how you're designing the material? And that's increasingly how we're starting to think about how we communicate to audiences. And I can tell you, whether we're talking about consumers or talking about people in brands, there are individuals who fall in both of those camps, you know, so those who want it like really simple and those who want to understand the sort of details and next level behind that information. And that's something we're increasingly starting to do, is try to provide that background to the public, in part to help educate, because I think a lot of times we don't actually agree on some of the terms, or what do they mean, or how do we apply this in practice. There's a lot that I think can seem sometimes a little mysterious about sustainability. And it shouldn't be. I mean, it's not a simple topic, but it's an important topic. And I think as a materials company, one of the things we'd like to do is help educate everyone out there on our perspective and how we apply sustainability in our work.
Awesome, thanks. And Georgia, I guess kind of same question to you in terms of when you're communicating both to on the consumer or customer side of things, as well as all the work that you do with brands, kind of how are you finding the same thing as Libby, where it's not necessarily a difference between B2B or B2C, but it's more about giving different levels of information depending on kind of that person's kind of interest in wanting to know the sustainability story?
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit different for brands as it is for consumers. For our community, we're really trying to position ourselves as their friend who can help them transform their wardrobe and the way that they shop to be a bit more sustainable. We do this through our Retiro Reader and all of our content, and our messaging help. Basically, we really need radical transparency, and we want to basically want to communicate that we are doing everything that we can, and we're not perfect, but these are the steps that we're taking. And we do this throughout creating content for our community that really helps them live a more sustainable lifestyle. So it's not just, this is what you should rent this or you should buy this. It's more different ways that they can shop. We really want to show them that it's really not what you're buying, it's how you're buying. And we try to do this through all of our social media and our content online. For brands, what we have to do is really educate them on what Gen Zs and millennials are after. So it's more about a consumer piece for brands, right? It's more educating them on the shifts and what we're seeing with our consumers and how our consumers are wanting radical transparency and voting with their wallets, and how you're really going to build those long-term relationships with those younger customers if you are implementing more sustainable practices. So it's a bit of the way we communicate to brands and our customers is a little bit different, and we absolutely need different levels. But I think in terms of marketing, we can't just only push the sustainable agenda. We also have to push, because people are still, the easy option is still the less sustainable option. It's the cheaper option generally is the less sustainable option. So we also have to push the messaging that come and rent with us also because we are the same price as a fast fashion dress. We are a platform for discovery. You can explore your style. There are different ways that we have to market, not just around sustainability. But yeah, lots of different levels depending on if we're talking to brands and customers. Being a platform is a very busy job.
Definitely a lot of moving parts. And we often talk about that at Futera, is you have to make the sustainable product just the better option. And so in terms of communication, we often talk about needing to talk about the functional benefit. What is the emotional benefit? What's the social benefit on top of all of the sustainability credentials? And I guess kind of to switch gears a little bit, the thing that's coming to mind for me is, as brands who all have sustainability in mind in your companies and organizations, how do you find kind of the balance of between talking the talk and walking the talk? So what are you doing kind of as a business yourself to be more sustainable, as well as trying to have this larger influence and impact out in the world, and helping to shift and change the market? And kind of what is there a balance that you find to that? Do you have any tips and guidance for other sustainable brands who are kind of in the same space? How much of it is kind of inwards and working on yourself as a business, as an organization, to be more sustainable, and how much is it about the larger impact and influence that you're having? Anyone who wants to jump in?
I mean, I can say a little bit, I guess. I think the first thing it comes down to, first of all, is that it just needs to be rooted in your values. Like if it's not a part of your core foundation as a brand, it's going to be very difficult to naturally integrate that into everything that you do, whether it's through your product or through your marketing or through your community or whatever. It's going to be very difficult for that to become natural. So I think that's the first thing, is that it just needs to be an actual genuine core value of your brand from the bottom up. And then everyone from the team needs to really believe into that, right? And really buy into that. That's a big focus and area of focus. And then I think from there, it's about being honest with yourself. Again, as Georgina had mentioned, like, we're not all perfect and we're never going to be, but if we're in that lens of continuing to grow and be better, challenging ourselves to be solutions focused and learning from the people around us that are experts in the field, like learn from data, learn from science, really take that in and understand it. That's like another level, I think. For Ocean in particular, like we always try to pull from insight from our community. And we also think about everything when we started as like a circular model as much as we could. So not only looking at, what materials could we use to make our products the most eco-friendly as possible with using experts in the field who have done this forever, but also how are we making sure there's like a circularity to that? Like, how do people dispose of our products? How do people dispose of any swim product, for example? And how can we be a part of helping that be a better process for them rather than them disposing it in the trash? We created like a recycling program initiative. So customers, if they wanted to, whether it's an Ocean swimsuit or not, or an Ocean product or not, they can send it to us and then they get an incentive to purchase something else on our site if they wanted to. So it's just finding little ways to make it easy for customers to choose the more eco-friendly option, as we kind of have been discussing. If brands put it out there that, they're spending time on plant-based packaging, they're spending time or more eco-friendly packaging, they're spending time on, giving back to organizations that are doing the work, they're creating quality, beautiful product that lasts a long time and you can invest in. It's an easy discussion once you have that out there. Like, customers, why wouldn't they want to choose that? And why wouldn't they want to have that option available to them? So it's just about like making it easy for the customer to want to choose that choice. And it comes back to the education and relating to your people around you, I guess, too.
Yeah, I guess it's easy to say yes to choosing your product if they know that they're happy to say yes to you as an organization as well.
Right.
And like practicing what you preach. So if you're talking about it, they want to make sure that kind of what you're doing also aligns with what you're saying. Libby or Georgie, anything to add to this one?
So I think it's easier for businesses that have been founded in the last couple of years whose core value is changing the way we consume or creating a more sustainable product, because we could implement sustainable practices at every step of creating the business. I can imagine as a more established business, it might be quite difficult to retrospectively implement these practices. But at Retiro, we made sure that every single thing we were doing was as sustainable as possible. We have got biodegradable packaging. We use a carbon neutral delivery service. We've partnered with an environmentally friendly laundry partner who cleans our product with a gas called ozone. And we've also partnered with ecology. So with every rental, we plant a tree because we really want, and that is part of our communication with our customer. Every time they rent something, they get a notification saying they've planted a tree, because we believe that positive reinforcement is really important for them to continue with this behavior. And then in terms of B2B and working with collaboration, being collaborative and talking about systems thinking, as Libby was mentioning earlier. So what we're really trying to do in terms of changing the system is we really want to have an open circular conversation with the brands that we work with. And we're building a platform currently to give brands full transparency as to how their product is performing in the rental market. So how well the materials are lasting, how many wears did it have, what fit did it have. We're also looking for qualitative data, so why people were renting, how they styled it. And we're really finding that providing this feedback to brands is going to be really beneficial to help them create a better product that lasts longer, that they can make more money from in the long run, and it's better for the planet. Because imagine as a brand, you only need to create one garment and you can reach 50 people with one garment. You've only had to incur the expenses of one, and you're making a recurring profit. So I think having that open dialogue and relationship with brands is really important, and making sure that we collaborate with every single stakeholder in our ecosystem. So that also includes in the future speaking to our delivery partners and figuring out what is the most efficient and environmentally friendly business to create. So yeah, systems thinking it's got to change, and that's what we're working on.
Awesome. Yeah, seeing yourself as part of an ecosystem and looking at all the relationships and dynamics within it. Sorry, Libby, go ahead.
Yeah, I know I love the answers that Georgie and Courtney gave already. And I wanted to add something that kind of ties into a couple of themes that they both mentioned around the values of a company and how difficult that can be to change in organization. I mean, you really are talking about another kind of systems change to change the values of an organization. For those who are wrestling with that kind of question, there's a resource that I recommend checking out called the Embedding Project. It's an effort, data-driven effort to articulate practices that are important for embedding sustainability into a business. And there's lots of resources to go with each of those practices too. So that's a really good place to start, I would say. A few of you may have heard this book a few years ago from Michael Pollan, Food Rules. It was like a 15 or 20-minute book about how to eat in a healthier way. And I thought maybe we need to come up with that a set of rules for fashion and sustainability too. So I thought I would just share my proposal of these 3 simple rules for more sustainable fashion. The first one is consume fewer resources. You know, that's really where we're going to get the most bang for our buck from a sustainability standpoint, reducing our resource consumption. And that looks like many different things, from water to chemistry to energy. Those are all resources. 2 is waste none of it. So being efficient or finding places for your waste streams to be turned back into useful products is another, I think, theme that we have heard a lot about already through, like, you know, Georgie's work with Rotaro and some of the other conversation already. And then source more preferable and sustainable inputs. And by inputs, I mean both the materials themselves, but also the people that go into that supply chain and who is producing and making your product. I think those are both really critical aspects of inputs into the supply chain. So something to think about.
Great rules. It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you've seen, and I can't remember who the artist was who created it, but she created kind of the hierarchy of needs or something like that. But it was like at the kind of the big thing you should do is just like wear what you have, then like borrow from other people that you know, then kind of rent, then resale, and then like buy new is like the last kind of process to go down. But part of this, I just see in the chat as well, and I think something that comes up a lot in conversations about sustainable fashion is the fast fashion industry. And I have definitely heard kind of arguments on both sides of it. On one side, people are kind of saying we really need to shift our relationship to stuff and to clothes. So the idea of it being kind of fast speed is kind of something that we need to change our relationship to it. Whereas on the other hand, fast fashion can mean kind of some of the stuff that Georgie's talking about of like, you can still have a fast experience with it, but you don't need to kind of consume it and take it away. And then on the material side of things, there's, you know, the whole kind of circular materials can be a huge kind of piece of the conversation as well. So just wondering from everyone's kind of perspective, where do you kind of weigh in terms of the fast fashion debate in the sustainable fashion, I guess, kind of conversation?
So I just want to say, I think sustainable fashion currently is quite elitist, and I think a lot of work needs to be done in around accessibility, because you can't tell somebody stop shopping at a high street store because mothers need to clothe their children, and if Primark is going to be the one to clothe their kids at an affordable rate, then you're going to continue to do that, and that's great, and you can't say otherwise. So I think in that case, brands have really sort of shot themselves in the foot where they've set this price bar really low. And I'm hoping in the future governments are going to start stepping in. I know they have in a couple of countries, but I'm hoping there'll be more government regulation, and then companies will have to enforce more sustainable practices. I saw last year in France, governments made it illegal to burn excess stock, which is a great step. I think that's fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I can't remember what my point was, but I think it's a very tricky line to toe. And I think where we stepping in is we're saying, you can rent something from £12. That's the same as what it would cost you at a fast fashion place. If you're looking for something new that you're not going to wear more than 10 times, and it's going to sit in your closet, then rather rent.
Yeah, I totally resonate with everything you just said, Georgina. I think accessibility is a big reason why also fast fashion and places like Amazon, for example, have been huge, is because of the convenience in not only pricing, but also in access, right? I think also as small brands, it's difficult because there's a lot that goes into building a brand, and there's a lot of resources and capital that needs to go into building a brand. And a lot of those expenses are tied into the price point of what you see for a lot of smaller independent brands. I do think, though, that there is this interesting resurgence of collaboration amongst brands that we've been seeing recently because of COVID, which has been really incredible, and a lot of like sharing resources. And I hope that a big part of what makes some of these brands more expensive is because the costs are higher for them as a small brand. And so hopefully, as the industry starts to become a little more collaborative, I think as a whole, as we start sharing resources, maybe there's opportunities to pool together. If someone is getting packaging from this person, jump in on the same thing, or try to figure out ways to kind of minimize costs together. I think that'll eventually also help with the pricing of some of these more niche, smaller, more eco-friendly brands than in terms of kind of competing with price point with the fast fashion. But yeah, it's a big challenge. I think it's already so rooted in us as consumers for like decades already now. So it's going to be really difficult to shift that behavior. But I think little things will hopefully make it easier over the years.
Yeah, I agree. I think a messaging that we really try and push is just buy less and buy better. So rather save up and buy a bikini from Ocean than buying 3 bikinis from a fast fashion place. Right. I think it's just about taking time to consider what you actually want to own long term, and how you're going to wear and take accountability of that item.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about my own personal experience with fast fashion, and being a 20-something in grad school, making barely enough to pay my rent and buy groceries, and and there's only so many options that you can go to shop. And but I think of one piece I have from H&M. It's a scarf that I've had for probably close to 20 years now, because it's lasted, and it's something that is still in style for me. So I think there's definitely an aspect of thinking, as Georgie said, about minimizing what you buy, trying to purchase things that will last, regardless of who that brand is, and something that you'll continue to love for a long time.
Yeah, and I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, like being proud of what you're consuming, having that emotional connection to what you buy. I think is a big part of that too. So.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I was kind of going similar to you, Libby, thinking back of when I was a fast fashion shopper, so much of it was about wanting to like express yourself in different ways. And when you're trying to figure out who you are, you want to explore and experiment. So if we're thinking about, okay, if that's the intention, there's so many different solutions that you can achieve that without just kind of buying disposable stuff. So looking at kind of what's the overall motivation for wanting to do this, and how can we as kind of an industry help create solutions that address those motivations just in a more sustainable way. Sorry, Georgie, I cut you off.
What I was saying is, what I think is really exciting is the rise of like Depop, because that really has democratized fashion. Gen Z really love to wear their values on their sleeve. They love to wear things that are handmade or made by tiny independent designers. And I think Depop really has propped up that industry, and I think it's great. And I think the fact that younger consumers have adopted this mindset is only going to be positive going forward.
Yeah, and I think that kind of Gen Z has come up a couple times in our conversation, and it's not only kind of that age group, but also sometimes like just a Gen Z mindset, and there is a huge demand for different solutions and for information. So they are, at least I feel, kind of really doing a lot of the pushing in terms of shifting what we're demanding from companies in terms of both offerings as well as information and insight. And so a couple things that I've kind of been hearing throughout the conversation in terms of what, or I guess like, how do you become a sustainable brand? How do we help shape a sustainable fashion industry in the future? Values have been coming up a lot. Collaboration has been coming up a lot. Solutions have come up. Community, I guess that's kind of part of collaboration. And then on the other side of things, we've been kind of speaking to different issues that have been coming up more recently. So lots about transparency, about intersectionality, and addressing both social and environmental issues. As we kind of think towards the future, I guess, where do you think the industry is going in terms of issues that we should be mindful of as we kind of move into the future? I think like 5 years ago, the conversation around intersectionality wasn't where it is today. So do you have any ideas in terms of like what's kind of the next thing that we should be mindful of? What should we keep in mind in terms of things that we need to address? Yeah, I guess let's start there.
I'll take a crack at that, Hannah. You know, one framing at the very beginning of this chat, you said, and I like the words that you said, and I'm not going to quite do it justice, but it was something about understanding the future that we're designing towards, that we're working towards. What does that future state look like, or what does that goal look like? One useful way that I have found to think about that future is this concept of planetary boundaries, also sometimes called donut economics. And it's fairly simple, at least at a high level. It's this idea that there are lots of ways that we impact the environment. There's lots of aspects of thriving as a human being that we need to consider. And those are all part of sustainability. And we are very much out of balance in a lot of those areas, out of balance in climate change. That's the planetary boundary that I think most people are most familiar with. But there's also other boundaries around microplastics in the environment, or acidification of oceans, as well as boundaries around people, literacy, thriving workforce that's paid fair wages, for example. Like those are all equally important as well. And we can't really solve climate change without solving the inequities that are present in our country and in our supply chains too. So I think, that's a really useful tool, I think, for us to think about. How do we start to shift our world within that system, and being comfortable that we don't necessarily have all the answers yet to that, but we certainly have ways to start to take steps in the right direction. And let's set perfection aside and start moving as an industry in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really helpful framework that provides quite a holistic view of how do all these things come together, and as you say, kind of how do we start to make how do we make a start towards it? It's not about kind of having all the answers right now, but it's about knowing, okay, what's the big picture, and how can we work towards it, and looking at these issues in a holistic way and in relationship to one another.
Yeah, I think that's important too. It's that part's key. It's like reminding ourselves of that connectedness and that interconnectedness that we do have with literally everyone around the world and the earth that we live on. We literally share one planet, which is insane. And we continuously forget that, we only have one earth that we're on. And so anything that I do on the West Coast actually does impact people in Asia or people across the world. You see that even just on the coastal cities that are like suffering from waste that just like piles up around their shorelines. And that's something we don't see because we're not there. But just because we don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, So I think it's around making sure, I think the industry and in general, multiple industries are getting better at that, but diversifying your voices and the people that are a part of your community, learning from different types of people, learning from, indigenous people, because they're the ones of the most connected with the earth that we can learn from really easily, and giving people the platform to like amplify their voices, amplify data and science. Like I know I say that a lot, but there's a reason
it's
why
very important.
it's very important. They know what they're talking about. So I think it's just taking that opportunity to listen and to really hear what people are saying, and then also like connect with the earth in your own way. Like when we connect with things, this is something that I learned a lot from Surfrider team here. They always say this, like when you connect with something you care about, you protect what you care about, you protect what you love, whether that's your family, your friends, or whatnot. Like if that's the earth, if you're connected to the earth and you want to care for the earth, you will do what you can to protect the earth. So finding little ways in your day that you can really instigate that connection, go for a walk outside when it's safe, or, go for a swim in the ocean if you're nearby, like doing little things like that, I think can have way greater impact than I think we like to believe. So yeah.
Yeah, building our connection and relationships and bringing more people to the table, bringing more people to the conversation. I love that point, Courtney, about including a wider range of perspectives when we're thinking about, okay, what are we bringing to the table? What can I offer, and how can we shape it together in a way that works for everyone?
Really?
Georgie, sorry.
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say, when you input the different voices, you just get more of a holistic collective view on things, right? And you push yourself to challenge yourself to understand better, as opposed to, I think we're in this day of age, especially with social media, of like looking at headlines and being like, oh, that's the full thing, it's like, oh, they said this, so like that's literally what it is. I'm not going to read the article, I'm not going to open it up, I'm not going to do my own research. I think that that's a really important piece that we're missing these days, is take that time to do your own reading and then learn from other voices that are doing the same thing. So
that's the thing, right? I mean, no one person has all the answers or all the knowledge. Yeah. So
and there's no one solution.
Yeah.
No one solution. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. The future lies in collaboration. That's all it is to say. Honestly, we need to break down barriers between companies and consumers, competitors, suppliers, manufacturers. Knowledge really needs to be shared both ways, in businesses, in systems. I think it's the only way we're really going to solve this problem, especially within fashion.
Definitely. And I mean, even in this conversation, all three of you are bringing completely different types of solutions to what the future of the fashion industry is and how it can be more sustainable, whether that's through new products, whether that's through different ways to access new products, whether that's through new materials and thinking about them in completely different ways. So we only have 5 minutes to go. I feel like I could talk to you all forever about this. But continuing in kind of this vision of the future, I'd love to hear from each of you, kind of thinking 5-10 years down the line. So 2025, 2030, like if you close your eyes, like what is your organization doing? How does it fit into what the future of the fashion industry is? How do people kind of how are they in relation to your organization, to kind of the offering and solution that you have? So super small question. But yeah, any kind of thoughts in terms of what role do you envision your organization kind of playing in the future of fashion?
I'll start. So I've got I've got the B2B and then I've got the B2C way we're changing things. Hopefully, well, that's our mission. We really want to work with brands. So in 2025, we want to be a brand partner for them in the circular fashion economy. So they give us a handful of garments. We rent them out on their behalf, and we really analyze how these garments are doing in the rental economy. And then we give this data back to the brands. So we tell them what is working, what is not working, and we take it one step further to actually become sort of a sustainability consultancy where we give them recommendations like, this leather isn't, this hasn't been performing well, it's not very good for the environment, why don't you try Milo? Or give them recommendations and really be proactive and advocate for better materials for them to use. And then in terms of the consumer, our ideal vision of the future wardrobe is a triangle, and one of them is responsibly made products, one of them is resale, and then one of them is rental. So you wake up in the morning, you go to your very minimal wardrobe, you have a handful of jeans, handful of t-shirts, handful of jackets, and those are the things that you wear every single day in and out, and you love them to absolute death. And Retaro is your rental platform for whenever you need an injection of newness. So it could be through our subscription service, it could be through a once-off rental, but whenever there's an exciting piece of fashion that you want to use to explore your personal style or discover yourself, you know that you can engage with that and then pass it on to be loved and worn by many people after you. And then, yeah, if we're doing that, then we're doing our job right.
Amazing. Olivia or Courtney?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Sure. Oh, go ahead, Libby.
Oh, I was saying the same thing to you.
Okay. Okay. I guess, yeah, I think I would love Ocean to continue to still be this platform for both brands as well as our community. Right now, we're still quite small, but we do have a big focus on uplifting and empowering not only people in our community and humans in our community that are doing really incredible things with the work that they're doing for the world or for people, but also brands and showcasing brands that we believe are really making a change in the industry and doing really interesting things. So we just hope to kind of grow that side as well, be a resource for them, not only in becoming a platform that can highlight them, but also, sharing resources we had talked about before, like if we can all come together as a collective, that could help us with minimizing everything from like our impact to our costs to our, all of that. And then from a community perspective, just continuing to be a resource and a tool for our community to continue to learn with one another, and motivate each other to really understand that we literally are, no one's perfect. We're all a part of this together, and where each of us has a big role to play, even though it seems like it's super small. So just continuing on that mindset that if we can be that daily reminder for you, I think that's a really cool thing for me anyways. So.
Beautiful. Thanks, Courtney. Okay, Libby.
Well, at this point in time, I think we like to think that we're doing a fairly sophisticated job of thinking in systems in the creation of our material, thinking about life cycle assessment and green chemistry and renewable energy and all these pieces, labor and who's making our product. I hope that in 10 years, we look back and we say, wow, it was great that we did that. And like, look how much further we've come, because I hope that we continue to, I believe that we will continue to innovate, to think differently, to become more sophisticated in how we're thinking about and integrating sustainability, and that we look back in 10 years and see a pretty incredible journey that will still continue even after 10 years. I hope that we are able to bring additional materials to the market that also have great sustainability benefits, and that we can serve as an example of the business value and the opportunities in the business sense to bring more sustainable materials into the world, and are a success story in that fashion. So I think, yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I think we did some amazing fortune telling or future telling today, and you all heard it here first. The future of fashion is collaborative. It is taking a systems approach, and it's having such a wide range of solutions for yeah, everyone that fashion touches, which is everyone. So massive thank you to our audience for joining us today. Thank you to Georgie Hyatt from Ritaro, to Libby Summers from Bolt Threads, and to Courtney Chu from Ocean. And thank you all for joining. Happy Earth Day, happy Earth Week. And we will see you in the future.
Thank you.
Happy Earth Day.
Thank you so much, Hannah. This is
Bye,
really
everyone.
interesting. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.